today we're looking at equations with fractions. And please remember, when we have equations with fractions and there's an x in our denominators, we are going to have to test our answers. Now, why do we want to test our answers? Well, because this is an equation where we would like to work out what's the values of x, once we have them, we just have to make sure that the x value doesn't make the denominator a 0, because we're not allowed to divide with 0. So, for example, if we get an answer where x is equal to -1, then we do the substitution. -1 plus 1 gives us 0. We're not allowed to divide with 0, so x cannot be a -1. Okay, so just remember, we have to test our answers when we have equations with fractions and there's an x in the denominator. Now let's jump into this example. Now, here we have an equation with fractions, and I can immediately see that my numerators and denominators have pluses and minuses in them. So I am going to have to factorize. So please be careful. You have to look very careful at what factorization you can use. But as I can see from this example, I can only take out a common one. So that means I'm just basically going to put these numerators and denominators in brackets. Therefore, I get x plus 2 in brackets divided by x plus 1 in brackets minus 3 divided by x minus 2 in brackets is equal to 1 over x plus 1 in brackets. Or I can say parentheses because they are called parentheses, but I'm just going to say brackets, okay? So, now that we have this, we would really like to get rid of these fractions. And how do we do that? Well, we first find the lowest common divider. So we start on the left and we work our way to the right, and we only look at our denominators. So x plus 1 should be in our lowest common divider. There it is now. Then we go to the next one, x minus 2. It's not here yet, so I'm going to include it. And then we go to the third one, x plus 1. It's already here, so I'm not going to include it again. And this is my lowest common divider. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this lowest common divider, I'm going to divide with the denominator, and what is left I'm going to multiply with the numerator. So let's see what I mean. X plus 1, x minus 2 divided by x plus 1. So the x plus 1 and x plus 1 will cancel out. And then what is left? X minus 2, and we're going to multiply it with the numerator. So I write it down as x plus 2, which is the numerator, times with what is left, it's x minus 2. Now let's go to the next one. So here we have x plus 1, x minus 2 divided by x minus 2. So x minus 2 and x minus 2 cancels out. And then I take this minus 3 and I multiply it with what is left in my lowest common divider. So I have minus 3 times x plus 1. That is equal to x plus 1, x minus 2 divided by x plus 1. The x plus 1 and x plus 1 cancels out. And then I will say the numerator, which is a 1, times what is left in my lowest common divider, which is x minus 2. So I write it as 1 times x minus 2. And see, we got rid of all the fractions. Now this is just simple multiplication. This is a product of two binomials, and it's also the quick one because we've got the same two brackets with only a sign difference, so I can do the quick way. So I can just say x times x is x squared, and plus 2 times minus 2 is minus 4. This is distributive law, so we're just going to say minus 3 times x, it's minus 3x, and minus 3 times plus 1 is minus 3. And that is equal to, and here I'm going to do the distributive law again, 1 times x is x, and 1 times minus 2 is minus 2. Okay, wonderful. Now, since there is a x squared in what is left here, we are simply going to move all our terms to one side and do the simplification. Therefore, I end up with x squared minus 4x. Now, where did that come from? Minus 3x. And if I take this x to this side, it becomes a minus x minus 3x minus x is minus 4x, and then minus 4 minus 3 is minus 7. This minus 2 comes over to this side, becomes a plus 2, and minus 7 plus 2 is minus 5, and that is now equal to 0. This again is a quadratic equation, and I'm going to factorize this trinomial, and then I end up with x minus 5 times x plus 1. So this is a zero product rule. So what makes this bracket a 0 when x is equal to 5? And what makes this bracket a 0 when x is equal to minus 1? Okay, so here are our x values, and now we have to test our answers. So if I take this x, which is 5, and I usually go to the part where I already factorized because it's easier. So we just simply say 5 plus 1 is 6. Okay, it's not a 0. 5 minus 2 is 3. It's not a 0. 5 plus 1 is 6. Not a 0. So 5 is correct. Then I take the minus 1. Minus 1 plus 1 is a 0. I'm not allowed to divide with 0, so this x cannot be equal to minus 1. This is not valid, and I am done. Now here is our next example, and we have an equation that contains fractions. So therefore we make use of all those rules that we've learned. So now I go and check all my numerators and denominators to see if there's pluses and minuses. Yes, there are. So I'm going to have to factorize. Now 4 is a term on its own, so I leave it like that. And then this is a trinomial factorization, and I end up with x minus 3 in brackets and x minus 2 in brackets. That is equal to, and I still write down the minus 16, and then this is a difference between two squares. So this becomes x minus 3 and a x plus 3. Okay, that factorization done. Then I write down the minus again. I've got 5x plus 2 divided by, this is a trinomial, so I'm going to factorize this one as well, and I end up with x plus 3 and x minus 2. Okay, brilliant. Factorization done. Now we want to get rid of these fractions by multiplying all the way through with our lowest common divider. So the LCD will be x minus 3. Yes, I'm going to include it. There's a x minus 2. I am going to include it. Then I keep going down the line and I get x minus 3. Well, it's already there. I'm not going to include it again. There's a x plus 3. It's not in here yet, so I'm going to include it in my LCD. There it is. And then a x plus 3 again, while it's already included. And a x minus 2, it's already included. So this will be my lowest common divider. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go and take my LCD and I'm going to divide with the denominator, and whatever is left I'm going to multiply with my numerator. So let's do it. X minus 3, x minus 2 and x plus 3 divided by x minus 3 and x minus 2. Well, these two will cancel out and we only have a x plus 3 left. So then I'm going to say 4 times x plus 3, and I'm going to write it down like that. So 4 times x plus 3 is equal to, and now I go to my next term. So I take the LCD and I divide it with x minus 3 and x plus 3. So the x minus 3 and x plus 3 cancels out, and my x minus 2 is left. So I'm going to take the minus 16 and I'm going to multiply it with what was left, and that is x minus 2. Okay, brilliant. And then the third term, I'm going to take the LCD, divide it by the denominator, and what is left? X minus 3 is left. So then I'm going to take the minus 5 and x plus 2, and I'm going to multiply it with the x minus 3. So I write that down, minus 5 and in brackets x plus 2 times x minus 3. And there we go. So we got rid of the fractions. And now we're simply going to do multiplication. 4 times x is 4x. and 4 times plus 3 gives us a positive 12. Then minus 16 times x is minus 16x. I'm just doing the distributive law. So minus 16 times minus 2 is a positive 32. And now here is the small little catch. Now, I really like to do the product of two binomials before I do the distributive law. So I'm going to go and do this first. And how do we do the product of two binomials? Well, first times first is x squared. First times second is minus 3x. Second times first is a positive 2x. And second times second is a minus 6. I leave it in brackets because I still have to do the distributive law. So see, it's minus 5, and then my product of two binomials, the answer will be in brackets. Then I write everything down again, and then I start by doing the distributive law. So minus 5 times x squared is minus 5x squared. Minus 5 times minus 3x is plus 15x. Minus 5 times a plus 2x is minus 10x. And minus 5 times minus 6 is a plus 30. Now, since I have an x squared in all of this that remains, I know I'm busy with a quadratic equation, so I'm going to move everything to one side and simplify. So 0 is equal to minus 5x squared minus 15x plus 50. Well, this was just simple adding and subtracting, okay? And now I can factorize this, but we have a minus 5 in front of the x squared, which makes the factorization way more difficult. So what I can see is that minus 5 is a common factor of all of these terms. So because this is an equation, I can divide all the way through with a minus 5. So minus 5x squared divided by a minus 5 is x squared. Minus 15x divided by minus 5 gives us plus 3x. And plus 50 divided by minus 5 is a minus 10. This is way easier to factorize. So we factorize this trinomial, and I end up with x plus 5 in brackets and x minus 2. This is a zero product rule, so all I need to do now is I need to know what is this x value that makes this bracket 0. Well, x is equal to minus 5. And what must this x be to make this bracket 0? Well, x is equal to 2. But if I go and test these answers, I can see that if x is a 2, 2 minus 2 is 0, which makes this entire denominator a 0. I'm not allowed to divide with 0, so x cannot be a 2, and x is equal to only minus 5. And there we go. And keep trying and work through the examples, and see you next time. Bye.